If you are thinking of studying abroad or you've already gotten an admission at some college abroad, then this video is going to really help you a lot because I'm going to talk about 5 things that you absolutely need to consider before you think of studying abroad. So most people, when they're thinking of studying abroad, apart from education, they consider a lot of different factors. And number one is getting a better income. On top of that, you're probably thinking of having a better lifestyle there. Some people even want to take their parents with them. And apart from that, you're also looking at a different way of looking at things around you, or just to get the most out of the education that you're going to have abroad. But let's be real, studying abroad is extremely expensive, especially for Indians. You have to consider so many things: your flight tickets, your stay, then your actual tuition fee, especially for the US. On top of that, you have to pay for visa. You're supposed to have some adequate amount in your bank account as well. So all in all, studying abroad is an extremely expensive affair, and you want the best ROI, which is return on income, return on investment, as much as possible. On top of that, in India, the education system is good to some level, but it's only limited to the top colleges, which have an acceptance rate of 0.7%. So it's extremely hard to get into these colleges. And these colleges are also getting expensive day by day. I mean, IIM Calcutta itself is charging 32 lakhs per annum from students. So going abroad sometimes seems like a better option compared to India. And that's exactly why I've created this video, because I'm going to talk about 5 things that you need to consider before you study abroad. Now, a little bit of introduction about myself. I'm Vanshika. I have been mentoring a lot of students, and just yesterday I mentored my 100th student, and that's why I thought, let me make this video, because the student that I was mentoring had a lot of questions about studying abroad, and a lot of the questions that he had asked, I saw a pattern with all of the other students who wanted to study abroad. So let's start with the first point, which is choosing the country where you are going to study. Now, this is extremely important. A lot of people will say that it's not that important, but trust me, it is quite important, because the country that you choose is going to have certain factors which is going to determine if you're going to get a better job or not, if you're going to get a good education or not. So the first thing that you'll absolutely need to consider when choosing a country is the visa requirements. So a lot of countries, they create a lot of havoc when they give you a work permit, and even when they've given a work permit, it's very hard to stay in that country, and you have to do certain jobs in order to get that work permit. So let's say if you're planning to go to the US, getting that work permit is going to be extremely hard. In fact, if you're laid off, then the chances of you making in that country is really hard. So this is one factor that you should absolutely consider when you're choosing a country. For example, Canada has it a lot easier. You can easily get a work permit. You can easily get a PR. And that's why so many students end up considering going to Canada. So the first thing that you need to consider when it comes to choosing the country is the work permit and the visa situation. If it's going to be easy, and if it's going to be hard, then how stringent are they when it comes to the visa requirements? Second thing that you should absolutely consider is the job market. Now, this is something which only a few students actually consider. A lot of students, they'll just go by the herd that, oh, everybody is going to the US, I'm going to go to the US. Oh, everybody is going to the UK, so I'm going to go to the US. This is such a bad way of looking at where you want to study. I know so many of my friends who ended up going to the UK, but if you see the Brexit situation, if you see the job market, you'll see that they're just taking up as many international students as possible so that they get an extra revenue. In fact, it's become much harder for the UK students who are citizens of UK to get into colleges because they don't bring in as much revenue to the country. So looking at the job market, looking at the economy is extremely important when you're considering the country that you want to go to. If the job market is not good, and if you don't think it's going to get better in the next 2 to 3 years, then you should probably refrain from keeping that country in your top 5. Let's come to the second point, and that is the acceptance rate of the colleges. So now that you've decided the countries that you want to go to, the question comes, what are the colleges that you're going to apply to? Now, all of these college applications are extremely expensive, so you want to be very mindful in terms of the applications that you're sending out. And one thing that you should absolutely consider is the acceptance rate. In fact, one of my friends, she ended up going to the US, and she went to a college which had more than 90% of acceptance rate. She has completed her master's last year, and still she's doing a waitressing job because she's not getting another job. So the point is, if you're going to a college which has more than 90% of acceptance rate, trust me, you're just wasting away your money, because 90% acceptance rate means that they accepted all of the students that came to them. And if they have 90%, then that means the rest 10% probably did not go to the college, and then they show it as 90%. So essentially, anybody who applies to that college is going to get through. And that is not a college where you want to go to, because the quality of education is probably not going to be that great. On top of that, the peer group, the networking group that you're going to get, it's not going to be that good. And that's essentially why you want to go to colleges which have at least 50% of acceptance rate. Anything more than that, you're really wasting away your money, because you're not going to be able to get a job unless you're really amazing, or unless you've done some really amazing certifications, unless you've had amazing work experience. So don't make this journey harder than it has to be by choosing colleges which has very high acceptance rate. Always keep it at a minimal. Now let's come to the third point, and that's going to be the course that you're going to select. Now, I know all of these foreign institutes, they offer such fancy courses. There's some courses on theology, there's some courses on philosophy, there's some courses on human rights, animal rights, and whatnot. But you're essentially going abroad with this mindset of at least having a stable income. And if you choose these fancy courses, it's going to be really, really hard for you to get yourself a job. So only go for these courses if you want to get a PhD in them. The same goes for psychology as well. Even in India, so many people, when they get a psychology degree, they're often wondering, what do we do next? And then they have to end up getting a PhD degree. And I don't need to tell you how difficult it is to get a PhD. It sometimes takes even 6 years for people to get a PhD. So only go for these fancy courses, or courses which are slightly unconventional, if you think that you can go on till a PhD, or if you want to stay in academia. To make things easier for yourself, I'm actually giving out a list of all of the top courses that you can study abroad, which have a good ROI, which is return on investment. So you can go through that. I have left the link for that in the description below, and you can choose the courses from there and see which one works the best for you. Now let's come to the fourth point, and that's going to be getting good certifications. Now I've seen a lot of people, they go on Udemy and Coursera and they get, these 10,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees courses from Harvard, which essentially anybody can go on Coursera and get. So those certifications, they end up not having that much of an impact on your CV unless you have an interview where you can justify all of the things that you've read in those courses. I would say go for globally accepted certifications which have a lot more value in them. For example, if you want to pursue finance, then obviously giving a CFA certification makes more sense. Or if you want to, get into accountancy, then CPA certification makes more sense. Or you can give an FRM. You can even give the CS certification. There's just a wide variety of global certifications that you can actually give in order to pursue something in finance. And all of these certifications end up having a big impact on your resume. So for example, if you want to get into banking and you want to go to Canada, then giving an IFC certification kind of gives you that edge. So whichever country that you're going to, just see what are some certifications that you can give, and those certifications will definitely help you get a good job. On top of that, when you end up going abroad, you'll have to get a job as well. So if you have these certifications, you can get a good desk job, or you could get internships at really good companies which are going to pay you well, and you don't have to do a lot of labor as well. Let's come to the fifth point, which is getting a work ex. So this is something which we don't consider a lot, because in India, you could just give an undergraduation and get a master's degree, and that's something which is accepted as well. But abroad, just getting an undergraduation degree is a big deal. So there's very few people who give the UG and then immediately after that they give a post-graduation degree. So if you already have an undergraduation degree, consider getting some work experience, because that just looks good on your resume and the chances of you getting jobs becomes a little easier. So if you're in a college which has less than 50% acceptance rate, on top of that you have these certifications, on top of that you have a good departmental rank, then trust me, you'll make the most out of the education money that you've spent. And if you have education loan as well, you'll be able to pay it back much faster with a good job which gives you a better pay as well. I really hope that you're able to make the most out of your education abroad, and I really hope that this video gave you that value, it gave you that insight about what it is like working abroad. So if you did find it valuable, do like the video, subscribe to the channel. Your like, your subscribe, your comment means a lot to me. It makes me realize that, okay, I'm making good enough content for all of you, and it just makes my day. So till then, you take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.